Markle's public image has always been polarizing, but her unexpected pairing in a fabricated scandal with Prince Andrew pushed media manipulation into a darker realm. The false narrative was engineered for maximum emotional tension, two of the monarchy's most scrutinized figures stitched together in a tale designed to enrage, titillate, and distract. What's revealing is not just that people believed it, but why the rumor confirmed their biases. And in today's climate, emotional truth often beats actual truth. The more outrageous the story, the more shareable it becomes, especially when it flatters a person's need to feel in the know. At the heart of this episode lies a disturbing revelation. The most viral lies are the ones that feel emotionally right, regardless of whether they're real. If you love getting the real story behind the palace walls, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and tap the notification bell so you never miss an update. This incident wasn't about two royals. It was about how susceptible modern audiences are to narrative addiction. And in that landscape, even a monarchy must defend its story like a brand, knowing that silence invites speculation and delay breeds distortion. You log on, and the headline is everywhere. Palace confirms Meghan and Andrew's hidden relationship. People are reposting it like it's gospel. Threads are unraveling theories. Edited images are being passed off as truth. And before you even click into the details, your feed is already spinning with reactions, memes, and a rumor, bizarre, sensational, and entirely false, managed to crawl out of nowhere and wedge itself into the center of the global conversation. Meghan Markle, Prince Andrew, two royals on totally different sides of the public spectrum. One, the outsider who challenged tradition and left the firm. The other, a disgraced figure buried under years of controversy. Two people with no known connection whatsoever, suddenly thrust into a viral narrative of secret ties, whispered alliances, and questionable motives. The fuel? Digitally manipulated media. AI-generated images that look just real enough. Old photos twisted out of context. Deepfake videos, voiceovers, and conspiratorial timelines made to seem airtight, but built entirely on fiction. If you love getting the real story behind the palace walls, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and tap the notification bell so you never miss an update. And the platforms didn't just let it happen, they amplified it. The more outlandish the theory, the more engagement it got. The lie spread fast. People who had no interest in royal gossip were suddenly debating whether this was a strategic move, a scandal in disguise, or part of some bigger scheme. Theories weren't just being thrown around. They were being packaged, with edits, with commentary, with overlays of ominous music. The line between speculation and misinformation vanished. And then the palace did something it almost never does. They responded. Not a vague source, not a quietly worded briefing. A direct, on-record statement. They confirmed it was false. There is no relationship, hidden or otherwise, between Meghan and Andrew. No secret alliance. No private communications. No backroom meetings. None of it ever happened. And the palace didn't sugarcoat it. They were deliberate, clear, and uncharacteristically swift. Because they understood exactly what this was, a viral attack rooted in fabrication, designed to manipulate perception. This wasn't a misunderstanding. This was a manufactured scandal. And here's where it gets serious. Because this entire debacle revealed just how vulnerable even the most historically powerful institutions are to digital misinformation. With a few convincing fakes and coordinated posts, a completely baseless narrative can hijack public attention and force even the British monarchy to break protocol and issue a formal correction. It's not just the palace's image that was at stake. It's the broader idea of truth in the digital age. The moment something that looks real circulates online, people stop asking if it's true. And when the story is emotionally charged, when it involves names like Meghan and Andrew, both lightning rods in their own ways, it spreads even faster. It didn't matter that the timelines didn't align, or that their paths hadn't crossed in any meaningful way. What mattered was that the visuals felt convincing. That's the real problem. The erosion of trust doesn't start when people lie. It starts when people stop caring about whether something is a lie at all. This story became a case study in how easily narratives can be created from nothing. It wasn't just some anonymous Reddit post. It was a coordinated campaign. Accounts pushing identical phrasing. Videos with the same script, just different faces reading them. A rollout that mimicked actual news coverage but was entirely engineered to create confusion. And who was behind it? That's still unclear. But what is clear is how these types of rumors thrive. They weaponize modern tech, prey on emotionally charged topics, and feed into pre-existing biases. Meghan has long been a target. Andrew has long been a scandal. Put them together, and the internet didn't need context. It just needed content. And here's where the palace made a rare but necessary shift. For years, their media strategy has been to avoid engaging with gossip. But this rumor didn't stay in the tabloids. It went global in hours. It flooded search results. It bled into legitimate outlets. Silence wasn't just risky, it was practically permission. The response marked a turning point, a recognition that the rules have changed, that in a world where AI can fake anything and people will believe it if it feels juicy enough, even the most controlled institutions have to fight for factual clarity. What we saw here wasn't just a celebrity rumor. It was a breakdown in the information ecosystem. People accepted emotional resonance over factual accuracy. Some didn't even care if it was real. They just liked the chaos. Because in today's digital environment, controversy is content. And content, no matter how false, equals currency. This is where the real consequences show up, not just in clicks or views, but in trust. When public discourse gets hijacked by misinformation, it's not just reputations that suffer, it's credibility. Institutions, media, even individuals start to look suspect, not because they've done something wrong, but because they were targeted. And the most chilling part? It worked. The fake story traveled further, faster, and with more emotional impact than the correction ever could. By the time the palace responded, the damage was already done, not just in public perception, but in digital permanence. Posts don't disappear. Screenshots get saved. AI videos keep resurfacing. This incident made something painfully clear. We're not dealing with gossip anymore. We're dealing with weapons-grade narrative manipulation, built for clicks, designed to deceive, and totally capable of changing public opinion before facts ever catch up. So, what now? The Meghan and Andrew rumor will eventually fade. Another fake scandal will take its place. That's the rhythm now. But this should serve as a warning, not just institutions, but to everyone, that the days of trusting what you see online without question are over. Digital literacy has never been more critical. Knowing how to detect fake content, asking where information comes from, recognizing emotional manipulation. These are basic survival skills now. Because next time, it might not be about two royals. It might be about a political figure, a business, a movement. And the consequences won't just be reputational. They could be systemic. This entire episode is a reminder of how fragile credibility really is in an era where deepfakes can look better than real footage, and rumors move faster than official statements. And how easily public focus can be redirected by lies dressed up as news. So if you're watching this and thinking, why did so many people fall for it? Ask yourself, would you have? Because this didn't spread because people are stupid. It spread because a lie was built for belief. And that's what makes it dangerous. If this breakdown gave you something to think about, let us know your take in the comments. Did you see this rumor when it first started trending? What tipped you off that it was fake? Or did it seem real at first glance? Hit like if you're done with seeing lies take center stage. Share this with someone who needs a reminder to pause before reposting. And subscribe for more deep dives into the messiness of media, the manipulation of digital stories, and the moments where fact and fiction collide. The truth is still out there, but these days, you have to fight to find it. And that fight, it's only getting harder. Because what this entire Meghan and Andrew mess exposed is something we've all felt but haven't fully reckoned with yet. Truth doesn't trend. Lies do. This story didn't go viral because it was credible. It went viral because it was emotional. It sparked curiosity, confusion, and outrage in equal parts. It tapped into existing feelings about Meghan, about Andrew, about the monarchy, about power, and twisted them into a story so implausible, so dramatic, it bypassed logic completely. It was made to spread, and it did, across every platform, across borders, across demographics. From gossip accounts to news-style TikToks, the lie took on a life of its own. Because that's the formula now. Don't present evidence, present drama. Don't explain, just insinuate. Because if you make people feel something, they'll stop asking questions. And that's exactly what happened. This wasn't about facts. It was about atmosphere. And the second those fake images dropped, polyphotoshopped or not, the story was no longer about whether it was true. It became about how big it could get. That's the part that should terrify everyone. Because it didn't just fool a few people on the fringes, it reached millions. Platforms let it ride. Algorithms boosted it. Entire conversations were built on it. And somewhere in the middle of that chaos, the line between real and fake stopped mattering. This didn't happen in a vacuum. It's the result of a media culture that thrives on immediacy and outrage. We reward speed over accuracy, emotion over context, hot takes over truth. And the consequence? Stories like this one dominate, even when they are built on absolutely nothing. But the real kicker, even after the palace shut it down, directly, firmly, publicly, people still didn't believe them. Because in the age of deepfake scandals, even the truth starts to look suspicious. We're so used to being lied to, manipulated, and spun around, a fact suddenly feels like the most unbelievable part of the story. And if that sounds backwards, we've entered a moment where fiction feels more convincing than reality, not because it's better crafted, but because it plays into our biases. It tells us what we already want to believe. And that's why it spread so easily. Because when people saw Meghan's name next to Andrew's, they didn't stop to ask if it made sense. They just leaned into the chaos. Some people saw scandal. Others saw revenge. Some thought it was a cover-up. Others called it a strategic leak. Every theory, no matter how baseless, was more exciting than the truth, that there was no story to begin with. And that's the issue. It's not just that misinformation is out there, it's that people prefer it when it hits the right emotional note. And AI just makes that worse. With the ability to generate fake visuals, fake audio, and fake timelines, anyone can manufacture a headline that looks legitimate enough to spark global attention. That's what made the palace's response so urgent. This wasn't just a hit to Meghan's reputation, or Andrew's. It was a hit to the institution's credibility. Because if people start believing that fake stories are more trustworthy than official statements, the monarchy loses its grip on public perception. And once that slips, it's hard, really hard, to get back. The palace saw that risk. That's why they didn't stay quiet. That's why they responded directly, instead of letting royal reporters speak in riddles or sources close to the family do damage control. They knew this wasn't just about shutting down a rumor. It was about defending the very idea that there's still such a thing as a verified truth. Because if they hadn't stepped in, the story would have kept growing. It would have morphed. Next week, people will be speculating about secret recordings or insider confessions. And that's how public narratives are shaped, not by what's true, but by what's allowed to grow. And yet, even now, some people still cling to the lie. That's the part that sticks. The part that exposes just how deep the problem goes. That even with a full denial, with no evidence, and a clear debunking, the seed was already planted. And in a world this digitally chaotic, seeds don't need soil to grow. They just need attention. This entire debacle showed us what happens when attention becomes more valuable than accuracy, and how fast a story built on absolutely nothing can force even the most ancient institutions to scramble. But here's what we should really take from this. This isn't a one-off. It's not some isolated blip. It's a new playbook. Deepfakes, AI-enhanced gossip, synchronized rumor campaigns. This is a new media landscape. And it doesn't just threaten celebrities. It threatens everyone. Because if this can happen to the royal family, with their power, their media control, their PR strategy, what chance does anyone else have? What happens when it's a political candidate, or a CEO, or a journalist, or an activist? What happens when these tools are used not just to stir gossip but to destroy lives, shift elections, rewrite history in real time? This Meghan and Andrew story was more than a viral scandal. It was a preview. And that's why we can't afford to just scroll past and laugh at how ridiculous it was. Because next time, it might not be so easy to tell what's fake. The AI will get smarter, the fakes will get sharper, and the emotional hooks will be even more calculated. That's why digital literacy matters more now than ever. Learning to pause, to question, to investigate, to look for sources before sharing, to ask who benefits from a story going viral. That's not just media hygiene anymore. It's survival. Because the internet doesn't care if it's true. It cares if it's clickable. And the only thing standing between truth and total chaos is whether or not we choose to participate in the circus. I'll step back and call it what it is. So, what now? Meghan and Andrew didn't have a hidden relationship. That's not breaking news anymore. The palace said it. There's no evidence otherwise. The story was fake from top to bottom. But the fact that it reached the level it did, the fact that we had to clarify something so absurd, is a real headline here. It wasn't just a test of media manipulation. It was a test of public discernment. And the results? Let's just say, there's work to do. So now we're here, at the point where a fully fabricated story forced the most guarded institution in Britain to break its silence. Not over a matter of constitutional importance, not over royal duties or succession, but because of a digital lie that snowballed into a global spectacle. A lie that combined the algorithm's thirst for chaos with humanity's weakness for scandal. And even with the palace's clear response, even after every fact had been laid bare, the damage couldn't be undone completely. Because this isn't just about Meghan Markle and Prince Andrew anymore. It's about how quickly a false story can rewrite public perception, and how easily people will run with a version of events that never happened, simply because it fits the narrative they want to believe. That's the most alarming part. It wasn't just that people were confused or misled. It's that many chose the fake story over the real one. Not because it made more sense, but because it felt more satisfying. And that's what misinformation thrives on. It doesn't have to be credible. It has to be emotional. That emotional reaction is everything. It's why a blurry AI-generated photo can feel more convincing than a press release. It's why voice-over TikToks with moody music feel more reliable than a royal spokesperson. It's why people hear hidden relationship and start filling in blanks with their own assumptions, based on bias, memory, and everything they've already been fed by the media over the last decade. Meghan has been polarizing since day one. People project onto her, some with admiration, others with vitriol. Andrew, on the other hand, carries scandal wherever he goes. So when their names were slammed together in a headline, it triggered a perfect storm of emotion. And that storm didn't care about logic. It didn't pause for verification. It didn't wait for the palace. It spread. Through influencers. Through gossip blogs. Through breaking news accounts that care more about clicks than consequences. The moment the story gained traction, it grew legs and sprinted. Because controversy isn't just contagious, it's profitable. And that's the bigger picture. There's an entire ecosystem that benefit from the confusion. Pages that get paid per view. Creators who gain followers from scandal breakdowns. Platforms that reward high engagement with more exposure. Nobody's incentivized to slow down and check if the story's true, because speed wins. Outrage wins. And in this case, truth came in last place. The palace knew that. They didn't speak up to explain anything about Meghan or Andrew, because there was nothing to explain. What they had to address was the environment, the lie itself. The palace's rare public statement wasn't just a clarification. It was a line in the sand. They were saying, we're not playing by the old rules anymore. This is a new battlefield. And it is. The digital landscape is unrecognizable from even 5 years ago. AI tools can create videos of events that never happened. Fake news outlets can publish articles with real-sounding bylines. Deepfakes can mimic a person's voice, face, mannerisms. And once that kind of content hits the internet, it doesn't matter if it's immediately disproven, because people saw it. And once they saw it, they felt something. And once they felt something, they believed it. That's how fast misinformation travels. And worse, how slow truth catches up. So where does that leave us? With a royal institution publicly fighting a battle against fake content. With two public figures' names dragged through a narrative they were never part of. With millions of people who, at best, got confused, and at worst, still think there's something going on that isn't. But beyond the palace walls, this moment is a wake-up call. For everyone. Because if this can happen to Meghan Markle and Prince Andrew, with global visibility, media infrastructure, and access to crisis PR, then anyone can be next. Your favorite celebrity. Your boss. Your neighbor. You. That's not paranoia. It's a fact. Because the tools that made this lie possible are publicly available, easy to use, growing in power, and they are being weaponized with disturbing efficiency. And what's worse, there's no natural defense. No built-in pause button to make us stop and think before sharing. No algorithm that rewards accuracy over virality. If anything, the platforms we rely on every day are designed to push the most provocative content to the top, regardless of whether it's true. This whole mess was a preview of how that system breaks people. How reputations get wrecked not by what someone did, but by what someone can be made to look like they did. And now the burden has shifted, because the palace did its part. It stepped in. It corrected the record. It responded faster than anyone expected. But even that wasn't enough to kill the rumor entirely. Because in this landscape, a false story doesn't need to live forever. It just needs to live long enough to damage. And after that, the lie becomes part of the myth. A half-remembered headline. A didn't they? Whispered month from now, long after the context is gone. That's what misinformation does. It embeds itself. And unless we get smarter about how we consume media, it will keep winning. So let this be a lesson. Not about Meghan. Not about Andrew. But about us. About how easily we're manipulated when we don't pause. About how susceptible we are to emotional shortcuts. About how important it is to develop actual media literacy, to understand what coordinated digital campaigns look like, how AI can fake visual evidence, and how emotional bias can cloud judgment in seconds. We're not powerless, but we are vulnerable, especially when we don't realize that what we're seeing might be synthetic, manipulated, or intentionally misleading. And look, no one's saying we have to become experts overnight. But the next time something outrageous hits your feed, ask a few simple questions. Who benefit from this story? Where did it start? Is there any verified source backing it? And does it even make sense? Because we can't keep waiting for official statements every time a fake story breaks the internet. The pace is too fast. The tools are too sophisticated. The line between fiction and fact is too thin. If we don't start drawing that line for ourselves, we're going to keep getting fooled. And worse, we're going to keep spreading those lies ourselves. That's the real danger. Not the content itself, but our participation in the cycle. So if this story made you pause, if it made you rethink how easily things can spiral, then good. That's the beginning. That's where the awareness starts. Because what happened here isn't rare. It's becoming the norm. And if we want any shot at protecting truth about public figures, institutions, or even ourselves, we're going to have to do more than just consume. We're going to have to discern. So, what do you think? Did you see this rumor the day it broke? Did anyone around you believe it before the truth came out? What do you think the palace's response means for how they'll handle fake news going forward? Leave your thoughts in the comments. Like if you're ready for the era of manufactured scandals to end. Share this with someone who needs a serious reminder that not everything viral is real. And hit subscribe for more breakdowns of the digital chaos rewriting how we see the world. Because the truth is still out there. It's just buried under 1,000 retweets, a dozen deep fakes, and one very good lie.